Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. Once again, I am Bradley, and he's been fresh on about 2 years undercover, and I think he's done, but he still owes me a 10-second car. How you doing, Stu?
I'm not too bad. That one's totally over my head. What, a 10-second what?
Yeah, Fast and Furious.
Ah, right, gotcha.
It's at the end of Fast and Furious. He lets him go and he goes, remember, I still owe you a 10-second car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been sort of semi-watching the Fast and Furious films just in dribs and drabs over the past few days, so...
And I biffed it all up for you. Do apologise. I saw I saw the very first one at the cinema, and that was kind of enough to put me off. And then I watched some of the latter ones. I don't know, the 7th one or the 700th. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like... yeah, no, not for me. So,
they're totally different films. The first one's actually quite a low-key, I think a fairly decent sort of like drama almost in a way, with like the underbelly of like crime and stuff like that. And now the latest one's just the most over-the-top action stuff that you can get. I love the way it's evolved. I love the films because they're just big, dumb, stupid fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I liked Army of the Dead, so don't take my taste, as any kind of...
I've not seen that one yet. I want to see that one. I've heard many good things.
Well, everybody hates it apart from me.
Oh, really? I've heard good things.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of people say it's actually some of Zack Snyder's best work. I mean, it's a low bar, but...
It is, but for me, if you liked his Dawn of the Dead and you liked 300, it's very much on that level. It's schlocky B-movie crap. And I really liked it. But that's not about video games.
Video games? Oh, yeah, we talk about video games.
That's
Segway.
right. Yeah, segue.
Video games aren't dead.
Although some franchises are a bit zombie-ish.
Yes. And some of them might rise. No. We're not just... What? Edith's here, by the way.
Hey, Edith.
Say hello.
Hi.
Right, now can you bugger off? So, do you want me? Shall we reverse it again? Because I've played a couple of bits. I know you've not played much. So, shall I go first?
Why not?
So, first one I want to chat about is I've been playing more Subnautica. There's going to be a theme to some of these games in terms of relaxation that I've played. But Subnautica, I don't know what progress I'm making in. I've played now both because I've got to do it kind of almost for the coverage. But I've played like the original Subnautica and some Below Zero. And I've put many hours into it, and I don't know how much progression I've made. I don't know if I'm getting that far into the story, whether I've got all the bits, but I just love moving around the worlds. The underwater environments are amazing. The changes made up for Below Zero are amazing, and they are just absolutely sort of stunning worlds to be in that I've completely forgot they're a game.
Yeah.
And that there's gameplay elements to it. I just love being, almost like from an ADHD point of view. Games that just let you be are very rare. Where at no point does it go, you've got to do this, otherwise the game just comes to a complete standstill. The game will just happily let you just swim around and look at the wildlife and interact with like little bits. And if you want to go further, yeah, of course you can. I think there was only sort of like really one or two time vital moments that happen in the game, but they're early, but they don't seem to affect what you get to do at any other point. And it's just really weird. I couldn't review the games because I'm not playing the games. I'm just existing in them, and the worlds that are allowing me to do that. And I think what games like that need to be really commended. And I think I've spoke about before, what I really love is you've got the main game that's got all the full survival options in it, so you've got to make sure you're keeping your hunger levels and things like that all in check. Or you can play the exact same game without the survival mechanics, where you've got to worry about your health, like if you get attacked by some of the more aggressive wildlife and stuff, or you can drown. But you haven't got to worry about your hunger, your thirst meters, or anything like that. And it's just brilliant to have those options. And yeah, I still don't know what the games are because they're just amazing environments to be in.
That's so cool. We've been talking about accessibility as kind of a theme for the last sort of 2 or 3 months even, and it's so important, and it's getting more and more important. And funnily enough, I'm playing one that's totally like that. I'm playing Bravely Default 2, as you know, and
Yeah.
it's got everything that you could think of in terms of tweaking the experience for yourself. So you can make it harder or easier on the fly with the options. You're constantly given items that you can use that will make loads of enemies attack you, so you can quickly build up your experience points, and not just fight after fight, but it does it so that you get a multiplier if you choose to fight lots of people at one time.
Yeah.
It also throws items at you that help you avoid fights, so you just use one of them if you're not in a place where you want to do that. You can fast forward battles so that they run really quickly. You can skip animations. It just everything that you would think that you want to kind of like maximize that experience for yourself and cut out the chaff.
Yeah.
That's all in there, just like Subnautica, and it makes such a massive difference, especially when you're a working adult and you've got no time, you know. It just makes it so much better.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's when a lot of people consider accessibility, they look at things like colourblind modes and things like that, like the obvious disabilities that are out there. So I don't think enough attention is brought to the games that offer the hidden disability accessibility options. And the fact there seems to be more of those out there, especially in, like you mentioned, Bravely Default, that in a more traditional game, that they're there for those too.
Yeah.
You know, something like Subnautica, I get why it's there, because they've created such a wonderful open world for you to be in. I get it, but to see it involved in stuff like Bravely Default 2, it is really good to see as well. And I'd really like to see that added to sort of like more traditional games. And I know it got called out at one point with New Super Mario Brothers, I think it was, where you can have like Luigi just literally play through a level for you.
Yep.
And that's brilliant, because again, even as someone, I can play through it and it's fine. I've not used it, but I know I've played certain games that require you to have almost like pixel perfect aims and things like that to get through levels. And I would have times where I've gone, I can't do this particular level in this game. I'm enjoying it, but now I've got to this point, I'm stuck. Whereas I'd like something to go, I'll tell you, okay, look, I'll get you through this bit, or let's make this bit super easy. Again, Celeste is really good for its checkpointing and stuff like that. We spoke about Hades in the past, that gives you better health options and loads of different little tiny little subtle changes that make it easier if you struggle with it. And I believe Spyro, if you go back to like the original Spyro games, they had options in it that made the game easier if you kept failing, but didn't actually tell you it was doing that. And it has been there. And I just want to see it celebrated more, and just games that allow you to play. You've bought the game. It should be up to you how you play it. And as you know, the options are there, whether that is an easy mode, whether that is help through, whether that is skips or anything like that, or just removing limits. It's just so good to see. For me, Subnautica is a wonderful example of how to do a survival game and making it accessible to so many different people.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great. And sort of to cap that off, games have been around long enough now to be old-fashioned. It's really strange. They were always the new thing. They were always the new medium, you know?
Yeah.
But they've been around long enough now to have stuff that is totally dated and just should be gone. And it really goes right back to that fact that they came out of the arcades. And it was like, to play this, you have to put like 10p in, or a quarter if you're in America, and we will make it as hard as possible and as addictive as possible, so that you die very quickly and put more money in. And all of that going from having it be really difficult and punishing, having the easy mode be something that you're culturally discouraged from using, not having any sort of skip options, all of these things. they're so old-fashioned. They just don't relate to modern gaming.
No.
Unless you, as a default, have that as the default. You can have those things as options, of course you can. And there are loads of games that do that. But the default should be, throws you straight into the game. You can come in and out of the menus whenever you like. You can adjust the difficulty whenever you like, and etc., etc., all the stuff we talked about. So, yeah, it's really old-fashioned if you don't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, with the Turtles reboot / remake / sequel that's coming out, it'd be interesting to see how they do it, because that's a traditionally very difficult arcade game designed to take your money, because it was an arcade game. I would be very much okay with, when they're doing that, seeing it get as many quality of life updates as it needs to make it worthy of playing at home. But I'm happy to then go stick an arcade mode in it, which is designed as though it was in an arcade and designed to take your money. I don't mind seeing those modes put into games, because, there's still something endearing about those in the right setting. But when I look at things like when I played Daytona, and you still had that where it's still got checkpoint systems that are really, really difficult. And the Outrun games, as much as I loved them, stupidly difficult checkpoint systems takes the fun out of it at home to a degree.
Yeah.
Leaderboards are what's the new way of doing that, is the replayability now. Can you beat that time? Can you beat your mate's time? That's how you do that now. Not allowing you to fail because, you wasn't quite perfect enough to keep going without putting in another 50p or whatever. So, but yeah, accessibility is definitely, I think it's going to be the thing that this generation is known for. I think the way it approaches accessibility.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I agree. I've been playing Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on my Switch a little bit. I've played it before, and I don't think I ever got to the end. I think mainly because it was on a home-based system rather than a handheld, and this is a much better fit for it, and it's got all that accessibility stuff Nintendo has, so that's a joy to sort of dip in and out of in the same way. Yeah, that's all I've really had a chance to do other than Bravely Default. So
it's a good game
going though
as well.
Yeah, it is a good
I
game.
can't remember. It got updated with its own levels, and it's got the 3DS levels in it as well, I believe.
Probably. It's got Odyssey levels in it as well, apparently. So, yeah, quite feature rich by this point. It is 7 years old now. So
yeah, I might have to pick that up again. It's one of those where I had it, a physical copy, and needed to raise some funds, so ended up selling it, and I only got about a third of the way through. So I might pick that one up again, because I think you can get that for only about 25 to 30 quid now, can't you? So
yeah, you can buy my copy off me when I'm done.
Oh, there you go. I'll do that.
Job done.
For a fiver. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
That's contractually obliged now.
Oh, god damn it. Snuck that under the wire.
Because I think Edith will like that as well. Toad's a lovely character.
My wife calls him Mushrump Head, because she calls mushrooms mushrumps. And
fair enough.
She calls him Mushrump Head. And that's how I always refer to him in my head now. So, there you go, listeners.
In embarrassing information, I didn't know why he was called Toad until I was about 30.
I understand that. It took me a while.
And someone went, because he's a toadstool, which is another... Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I worked out about that Zelda game being called the Minish Cap being diminish because you get smaller. It's a really quite sophisticated pun, especially for a Japanese company with English.
I thought it was Minish.
No, because it's like diminish, you see.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I kind of... there's quite a few, oh, right, kind of moments when I tell people that.
So it's the one time people in a city, London, actually sort of like understood it when they're going, "What you playing?" "I'm playing Diminish Cap."
There you go. See? Yeah, it's worked.
Jesus Christ, that was poor. That was poor.
Well, I'm used to it by now.
So before I get onto the main game I've been playing, I just want to touch also that it kind of follows on from Subnautica a bit. I've been playing more SnowRunner on the Switch, and it don't run great. I will admit that even I noticed some frame rate drops and odds and ends and bits like that. But oh god, it's just so fun and relaxing to play, much in the same way that Subnautica is. You do have to follow the objectives a bit more because it is a progression-based game to a degree, but you can take your time. There's no time limits to it. It encourages you to think and take your time with things, look at other ways around and all things like that. And yeah, absolutely sort of like great options in there. And you can put your headphones on and ignore the children as well. But yeah, no, absolutely. SnowRunner's a lovely game. It's taken everything that I think MudRunner does well, gets rid of a lot of the things it doesn't do well, and is just a much, much better game. But yeah, I've been playing more than that on and off. So I thought I'd give that a little mention again. But the main game I've been playing for this week's podcast is a game called 100 Days, not 100 Days, 100 Days. I've got to get that right. Which is a wine making simulator stroke farming sim type thing.
Okay.
And it's a very unique game. So what you've got is a strategy game come puzzle game come deck builder light plus farming sim and stuff like that. And it's kind of all of those things, but none of those things at the same time.
All right.
So it sounds like really weird and complicated, but it's not. So basically, the way the structure is, you set up a vineyard, select your area and what sort of crops or vines you're gonna grow for your winemaking and things like that, and you sort of cultivate it all in like traditional farming sim ways. So you've got to make sure that you're tending to the soil, the crops. You've got to consider the seasons, what the weather's doing, and all things like that. And then kind of when it comes to actually making the wine, you give it almost like this very light card game based system where you get a card and you have to place it on a grid, like you get it does things on a grid, and you use that to go through the motions of making the wine, and doing that will give you sort of like how good the quality of the wine is, and loads of little things like that. It's a really well put together game, and it's one of those that's very difficult to describe to someone and go, this is what it is. But I almost forgot about that I had to cover this because I've just been playing it on and off, and it's just so relaxing. You know, the card game elements in it are honestly so light that they might as well not be there. But if they wasn't there, the game would lose so much. And it's got all the things like you want to expand to be better, to get sort of like more areas where you can get more different vines and do different types of wines and stuff like that, and get your harvest going. And when you expand, it doesn't get overly difficult to maintain either, which is something a problem I've had with like even things like Stardew Valley when I play, is that when things get bigger, I just kind of lose my focus on what you need to do.
Yeah.
And with this, you kind of go into it and you're thinking, it's going to be quite a sterile game, because it's like, that's the one thing you get with these. I either go down the Stardew Valley Animal Crossing route where they go charm, or they go, right, that we're going to be quite, here's the idea, the mechanics are right, and they're quite sterile. But with this one, it's not. It's like a structured game, but there's elements of lightness and almost cartoonish in it, with interactions between like you and your neighbours and the different characters and things like that. And, it's got a charisma about it that I just wasn't expecting. And then sort of like the cards you get to play, the weeding you need to do as well, and the harvesting and how the bottling works, and it just feels like it should be complicated, but you get maybe 3-4 cards in your hand at any one time, and it's just like bang bang bang, okay, they work together well, I'm going to get this is going to go well, that's not worked, so I've got to try and recultivate and things like that. And it just, I don't understand why I make it anymore, but any more than I ever did before, but it's it gives me an appreciation of it, and it makes you feel like you're actually doing something like quite, I don't want to say upper class, but something quite cultural in a way. And it's just a really, really interesting game that it takes elements that are from so many other things but feels unique without being too different. It's just lovely, absolutely lovely game.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent stuff.
So yeah, that's a winemaking simulator, which I never thought I'd ever get to play, which again shows how good, games are, really, I think.
Yeah. Every type of human activity now is basically covered in video games.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of that scene from The Simpsons where they don't want to go and do the gardening but are happy to play the gardening simulator.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it's become. But, the fact is, every time you think you've played everything on offer, there's something new.
Yep.
Always something new that comes out and you just go, that shouldn't work, but it does.
Indeed.
Yeah, and just to cover as well, actually, said as we're talking about value, there's a new bundle on itch.io that's raising money for Palestine, and it's for a great cause anyway. It's a $5 bundle, so in UK I think it's about £3.70-ish, and it's got just over 1,000 games on it, some of it crossing over with the racial equality bundle for anyone who got that one. And just to give people an idea of some of the great games that are in it, it has Nuclear Throw, Mini Metro, VVVVV. It has Hacknet in it, which is absolutely brilliant. It's got Minute in it, which is a really, really good game. Milkmaid of the Milky Way is an excellent game as well. Cats Are Liquid, I've given that a go. That's really, really good. But one that I will say that stands out more than any and is worth it alone. So if you want to just pick out one game, so one game plus 1,000 extra free, it has the amazing Mixolumia from Dave Makes, which is a Tetris stroke Lumines style game that just takes the elements from that, and we've spoke about it on here before. It's an absolutely amazing action puzzle game. $5, £3.70 for that, plus 1,000 extra games. You can give more if you can spare it, but absolutely wonderful. And just also to add, there is another bundle. It's got more under the radar indie games, but it's another bundle on itch.io with games dedicated to queer games developers, which has a ton of interesting games in there. A lot of them are almost like concept style, like games and things like that. But again, that's about $5 to $10 and loads of value in there. Check that one out as well. That's both of those on itch.io. I think both for about another week. 5 to 7 days by the time you're listening to this.
Agreed. Definitely go for those.
Any more games for you before we move on?
No, nothing else.
No? So I was knocking it to you, so do you want to maybe knock it back to me?
Okay, I'll knock it back to you.
And then I can knock it back to you?
Yep. I'll knock it over.
And then you can knock it back to me?
Back to
a bit like tennis, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Segway. Yeah.
Yeah, segue. There we go. We still need to get a stim for that.
Definitely.
Segway!
Yeah. I'll do one, don't worry.
There you go, clip that. Clip that with an auto-tune it. Or don't. Segway! But yeah, I want to chat a little bit about this recent story with Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, and both the positive and the quite horrendous negative reactions that have come out of her dropping out of the French Open. So for anyone who doesn't know this story, Naomi Osaka, I believe she's still a teenager. Tennis player,
very young.
She was like the youngest winner of like the US Open or something like that at like 16 years old or something really bizarre. But anyway, she's recently decided she couldn't cope with speaking to the media after games at the moment, and so she decided she wasn't going to do that, and the WTA fined her, said it's part of what she has to do, so they fined her because she didn't want to do the media conferences after each game. So she decided to drop out of the French Open, stating that, for her own mental health, she suffers with anxiety and depression and just wasn't in the right frame of mind to do it. And generally, the reaction to her doing it has been very positive. People have gone, no, that's fair enough. If you're not in the right frame of mind, then go for it. You shouldn't have to do the press conferences, and if you're being forced to, then fine, drop out. No one expects you to play with a bad shoulder or a dodgy knee or anything like that, so Of course, if you're mentally not there, that's fine. Now, there are some people out there who are contrary for the sake of it. And both sides of the pond, I've seen it, where she's been attacked for this. You know, namely Piers Morgan over here, because of course, I believe, you know, some of like his contemporaries in the States, like Joe Rogan and people like that, have also attacked her for this, and so on. And these people don't learn. It really frustrates me that we still don't learn. You know, you go back to Robin Williams and him passing, we didn't learn from that. We didn't learn from Caroline Flack more recently. We didn't learn from Gary Speed, the ex-Welsh footballer. And we just don't learn. We seem to hold celebrities or athletes to such high standards. Well, not even high standards, just impossible standards. And it's not fair. It's just really, really not fair. When you see someone like Naomi Osaka, who's a young, gifted tennis player, have to take a break because of her mental health, that shouldn't be something we're looking at and either going, oh, you know, that's really good of her doing that, or the other where people go, oh, but you know, she's a sports star, she's got it easy, blah blah blah, why is she doing this? It should just be, no, that's fair enough. If someone can't cope at the moment, then fine, that's absolutely fine. They shouldn't have to, especially in sports where I would happily see the end of post-match, post-game interviews, because they're pointless for me.
Yeah.
Why are they needed? You know, you see it after a game of football when a team's lost, or even when a team's won, they have to put up with the most mundane or stupid questions, or you'll be told, oh, we've got rumours that this player's not happy or he wants to leave the club, what do you think? It's like, just, no, stop. We don't need it, especially when you see sports stars who aren't comfortable being in front of a camera and stuff like that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it's been turned into a bit of a sideshow. I'm not sure why. I think probably to justify, so that the broadcasters who pay for it can justify the fees that they then pass on to the consumers. It's almost as if they feel they have to own the players in some way, you know, so that they're not like they haven't got their own autonomy. So that you can push them around, make them feel like they're employees, so that in a way that you can push them around into different spots and to do different kind of press and to show up on time. And it's all kind of like a kind of micromanagement, dragging the most out of them that you can. And it is daft that young kids who all they want in life is to play this sport are then expected to have, like, you know, media skills and coping skills, time management skills, all this stuff that really they shouldn't have to be focusing on. And it is really detrimental to their mental health. If they want to play a game and then, you know, bugger off home without speaking to anybody, they should be allowed to do that. They should have their autonomy, but they don't seem to. So yeah, no, it is a pretty desperate situation.
And then you see almost like the opposite side of it as well, where you've got someone like Marcus Rashford, who we look back in 20, 30 years, he's going to be remembered more for what he does outside of football than I think he ever will in just football. And then all you get from people is, oh, shut up and just get on with playing sport.
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want these people to be intelligent and take interest and show that they actually care about the world around them? Or do you want them just to be in a bubble for your entertainment? You know, the double standards we expect is ridiculous. You know, when a footballer goes, you know, when we was going, the footballers should pay for the NHS and stuff like that. No, it shouldn't be on them, on their wages, but, you know, they still did get together. Jordan Henderson and many others got together and raised money for the NHS out of their own money, and things like that. You've got Juan Mata and his project 1%, which I think is an amazing thing. It's a great idea where 1% of any bit of money that passes through football goes to charity. You know, I think that's a really, really good idea, whether that's agent fees, player wages, transfers. Absolutely brilliant idea, and I think that's actually something that could be done almost as a taxation sort of thing. We could all cope with losing 1% of what we're putting in to give to charity, and then have that spread around. You know, maybe not forced, but, you know, when you're earning the sort of money that some footballers and other sports stars are earning, I get why they want to do that. You know, it's a drop in the ocean for them, but it means so much for many, many charities. But then he's being told to shut up and get on with football, or you know, I bet he's eating well. You know, yeah, he's trying to do trying to get the poor to eat well, and why is he not just giving these books away and stuff like that? And it's just a complete misunderstanding of what he's trying to do. And yeah, it's the double standards. And then as soon as they do try and express that, look, I'm not feeling right, no, go and be a robot, go and entertain me. I don't agree with it, but I get that almost in a team-based sport, whether that's rugby, cricket, football, basketball, ice hockey, you know, whatever. I get that to a degree because you're also with your teammates and it can be very important. But for something like tennis, where, yes, she's got a team around her, coaches and support staff and stuff like that, but essentially it's her on that court alone. If she's not in the right frame of mind to do it, for whatever reason, she knows she's not going to be able to put out her best performance, then she should be able to say, no, I don't want to do it. It shouldn't be something she's forced into doing or criticised for not doing. And, you know, I think Venus Williams, her reaction when she was asked about it, basically calling out the press and was on the likes of, you'll never be as good at this as what we are and you can't hold a candle to us. I thought was absolutely... I want to see more sports people hit back at the media like that, because the media, the hacks, and through us, you know, the whole us, not me and you, we're not the ones controlling it, Stu, but the whole of us, where we go, we want this, come on, you know. It's aimed at us as well, because we're like, you've not played well today, you've not done well, what's wrong with you? We can't kick a ball as well as some of these people, we can't play tennis as well as some of these people, you know, we can't act as well, sing as well, yet we will happily criticise and demand more from them. And I think they need to hit back at us. Yeah, no, I agree. And they should have that power. They shouldn't even have to get to a stage where they need to do that. It should just be that they have their own, you know, individual autonomy and can make those decisions for themselves. And it is harder, as you say, I think, for individual sports people, because you know, they're very much their own one-man band, and yet they're being controlled at the same time. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't treat me as an employee but also at the same time expect me to be an independent agent. I can only be one or the other. So yeah. So what do you think? I mean, we're not going to solve this, obviously, because it's just me and you, but what do you think needs to change? How do you think it needs to change?
Oh, that's a big one. I mean, what needs to change in terms of the attitude is that they should be treated like human beings, and there should be a better awareness of mental health conditions, so that when somebody says they don't want to do something, then they should be allowed to not do it. How we get to that state, it's really much harder question. I mean, if you extracted most of the money from these sports, then it wouldn't be a problem, and it would be much more grassroots, and, you know, people would have more control over their own destiny. So unless there's a sort of grassroots change, maybe not, but perhaps better, again, you know, better cooperation, better unionisation is always a good way of making sure that these bad things don't get too bad. Unions have been sort of crushed over the last 50 years or so, very much, but why not lead the charge to have unions become more of a thing again, and to live in more of a sort of a more left-leaning socialist kind of a state, by the players uniting and saying, well, we're going on general strike if you don't agree to our conditions. So that's one way they could go about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way for sort of like the current professionals, 100%. But I mean, what I find really interesting is that there's an attitude change in kids. I would say around 12 years old, you start to see it. They run around a football pitch, a rugby pitch, wherever they're doing, whatever they're doing, they do it. There's a smile on their face. It's just fun. And then you kind of get to an age where straight away they're going, you're good enough to play for this team. You're not, so you can go in that team, or we'll cut you completely because you're not good enough. And things like that. And the fun starts coming out of it. It gets way too competitive, and, you know, we're expecting so much from kids.
Yeah.
Which is why such a small percentage ever make it professional. We'll use football because obviously it's the national sport here and stuff like that. And, you know, I've got kids on a team I coach where, you know, one of them I had was part of a team and never played. Never got played because he wasn't good enough, wasn't confident enough, wasn't good enough, didn't play. So I made sure he was getting played. And what I explained to these kids as well, there are times where we might be playing against a team where I know one of you is going to struggle. So you might not get as much game time this week as I would usually give you. But I promise you, you'll get that made back the next game, regardless, and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm not obviously going to name names, but I've got one kid, he's not overly fit and he's not very fast. So when we play a team that's like fast and strong and stuff like that, he's not going to get any enjoyment from that game. So I explained to him, you know, you're going to spend probably a bit more time on the bench for me, unfortunately, but this is what we'll do the next game. And try and sort of like keep it that it's the fun. And it's never about the result. It's about how much fun you're having together, you know, and everyone knows it is more fun to win. I'm not one of those that go, oh, it's the taking part that counts, because we all know it's more fun to win. No one likes losing sort of like 7-8-9-0 every week. So you want them to be competitive to a degree, but not so it's the be all and end all. And it comes from the parents as well. I've seen kids play with a freedom when their parents aren't there watching them. And you see a difference in them. And again, I think that's because even when your kid's not very good at sport, you've got some parents go, my kid's going to make it, or if he doesn't make it as doing this, then he's some kind of failure. It's like, it's a badge of honour that your kid's good at a particular sport, and if they're not quite as good at that particular sport, or that thing they've tried as another kid, then it's a failure as you as a parent, and it's not. And we see that then that, oh, my kid's not doing as well, so I'll then relate that to that footballer who's being paid however many thousands of pounds a week should be doing well because he's on that much money. What's he got to worry about? He should be a robot.
Yeah.
They should be a robot. You know, you see it sometimes where I think the England women's team lost the final or semi-final to the USA in the Women's World Cup, and they was abused for it. A lot of abuse for it because they didn't play that well, and it's like, but they're not even getting the full-time pay to be able to train as much as the men's team. So what are you expecting from them? What really are you expecting? Many professional women's footballers have to have second jobs. It's only just starting to change now. And we're expecting them to have the same level of dedication, skill, strength, speed, understanding, media training, everything that we're getting from people who are being paid £100,000, £200,000 per week. And it's just not possible. And we as a nation start sucking the fun out of it all. And then wonder why certain players look miserable, why certain athletes don't look like they're always having a good time. And if they do look like they're having a good time but not playing well, they get abused for it. There was a recent one where some of the Leicester players missed out on a top 4 spot, but walked off at the end of the game with the Tottenham players, and they was having a laugh and a joke. And online, they got abused for it because they dared have a laugh and a joke after failing, so to speak. And God forbid any of those players are black, because then it's even worse. And we wonder why players or athletes, I'm saying athletes, but I think this even goes down to actors, musicians, anyone in the public eye, why they struggle with their mental health so badly, because we messed them up even more so than we ever done before. And I don't want to say it's on the famous now to start sort of like really being open about their mental health, because I don't want to put that pressure on anyone, but hopefully more people can take a stand like Naomi Osaka, and we can start to actually realise how much of an effect this is having. We don't just get shocked by the next celebrity or sports person that's ended their own life because they just can't cope with it anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So, but on a more positive note, sports is also a great thing. We just got back today from taking Edith to do football, and she just plays with an absolute smile on her face the whole time, and she got complimented on how sort of like well she's getting on, how well she can use both feet, and you know she's only 4 and she shouldn't really be playing until she's 5 and in school, but how well she keeps up and stuff like that, and she just absolutely adores it. So for all the negatives you hear about sport sometimes, it's lovely where you see kids just absolutely living their best life with it. It's a great thing for them, and I think we need to see more and more clubs, not just for your football and your rugbies and your popular things, but I think we need to see more and more kids clubs come back, because when kids do something they enjoy, it's just the most warmest feeling you can get to see them.
Yeah, that's great news about Edith enjoying that. yeah, and it's a general great point too, that yes, these options should be there, and they should be only competitive as in far as the game, you know, during that game, and then outside of that, it should be forgotten. There should be that option, so that all kids can just get involved. Yeah,
it's one of the reasons I love that my son's with his ADHD. It really doesn't matter if he wins or loses or whatever, has a good game, bad game. He gets in the car afterwards and it's gone. Whatever's just happened in that previous hour or so, it's just gone. Yeah, it's whatever, done now.
Awesome.
He done it after winning finals. He's like, yeah, it's really good, celebrates for a few minutes, gets off, and sort of like everyone else is still buzzing. He's like, well, it's finished. It's done. I don't see what the big deal is. So I love that he can just switch off like it. And I think, again, it's something, I think when kids can do that, I think something we as adults should really look at, the way kids can just switch off and things like that and learn from that.
I agree. It shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. Definitely not.
And we're going to have a final segue. Segue! Because talking of switching off, I'm going to switch my mouth off. Unless you've got anything else to add, I'm going to let you do your thing.
I like doing my thing, so that's good. And yeah, so hopefully everybody's had a good week. As I usually say, you know, I hope you have, and I hope that you've got a good one in prospect, but we recognise things can be difficult. So talk to as many people as you can and who you feel comfortable talking to, and also make sure you follow our content. So we're on all the socials, and you can also support us on Patreon if you can afford it and you feel like it, and also on Coffee. You can email us at podcast@mentalhealthgaming.com. Otherwise, have a great week. Take care, stay safe, and stay sane.